Marvellous. I have started recording. Does anyone need to adjust their makeup or their hair?
Do I?
I don't know.
No, spot on.
Keith, really,
Looking
on that
good.
one.
Good, Keith.
I don't have any.
Good. We're good.
Gorgeous. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Marvel Card Collectors Podcast, your weekly digest of hobby goodness. We've got a full house this week. We have Wesley.
Hello.
Do feel free to say something for the audio listeners. We
Marco.
have Keith.
How you doing?
We have Josh.
What's going on, guys?
Then we have Jason.
Hello.
Marvelous. Right, the gang's all here. You know the one thing we haven't talked about, because we didn't talk about it on the last recording, because I completely forgot, and we kind of had to we had so much to get through, and Josh, you weren't on that one, so tough. But we were talking about you for the whole hour and 45 minutes, Josh.
I figured.
Is we didn't decide who was going to be the intro artist.
Okay.
For the episode. So for the one that three of you were on, and Josh, you'll probably hear when it drops. I'm going to use Bill Sienkiewicz for that one.
Good one.
Right.
I think that's a good one for the review of the year. So our listeners will have already heard that. But for this week, who knows? Who knows who it will be? So if anyone's got any bright ideas as to who it will be, shout as we go through this recording, because often you find it kind of comes to you as you're going through the motions. Right, bit of a hot button one this week, and this is an interesting topic, and this is a topic I was kind of thinking of doing an episode about last year, and now that you're all here, let's go for it. So in MCCW, FBooth, I think his name's Rick, like Frederick.
Frederick.
Yeah, that's it. Really lovely guy. If you're in the hobby, especially if you're into sketch cards, you'll know him, will know of him, because this guy has one of the absolute chef kisses collections of sketch cards. I mean,
I just bought off him this week.
That's what I'm about to say.
Yeah.
So
Really?
he very rarely parts with anything, but the vault opened and a shaft of light fell across the hobby, and Keith went in. Keith went in and was baptized in the glory of FBooth. And he was selling some of his sketch cards. And when I'm saying if these are the ones he's selling,
what is he still?
Yeah, exactly. One can only marvel. And we're talking Perner incentives from Rittenhouse sets. We're talking A-card sketches.
A-cards, yep.
Yeah, we're talking
Alcyone.
lots of other things. Yeah, lots of other things. I can't remember the name off the top of my head. But it was like, and he just kept posting them. And it was just like, it's like, and they're not cheap.
No.
But, worth it. Keith, which one did you pick up?
Obviously, it was an X-23. I don't remember the artist on it, though.
It was a good price.
Yes. No, the price was solid.
Yeah.
And I think it was on Black Diamond stock.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Nice. I don't think I've got anything on Black Diamond stock. Yes, I do. I think I've got one sketch I'm about to do a giveaway on. Anyway, but FBooth posted. I'm just going to read it out, and then we're going to go into it, because he's made 3 points here, and on at least one of them, possibly two, it got spicy on the comments. And I think I'm gonna preface this by saying that just because we're talking about it now, and we'll all have different opinions about it, we're not telling you how to do with your cards what you want to do with your cards. I mean, quite frankly, you can poke them up your bum for all I care.
Yeah.
I don't recommend you do that, because it will significantly lower their value to others. And there is a massive slice of subjectivity to everyone's position on this. So, that being said, FBooth writes, as someone who collects one of ones for 15 years, I will give a bit of advice for those owners who may consider selling or trading. Consider this a the more you know post. Number 1, please do not grade sketches, red spectrums, plates, purple FXs if you think this will increase their resale value. Since they are one of one, there will only be a pop 1 or none higher. Most buyers of these rare cards won't care about the grade. Releasing them from the case can also be a pain in the arse. Let's tackle that one first, shall we, guys?
Yeah.
Grading one of ones, effectively. Be it sketches, red spectrums, plates, purple FXs. What say you on this? And have any of you done it?
No, I just recently sent in or was talking about putting a plate in grading a plate. And after looking at it and seeing that I mean, he makes an obviously a great point. It's going to be a 1 of 1 or a 1 of 5. I was mainly doing it just because I wanted it to match my other, my other stuff that I've gotten graded in the past.
Yeah.
But to me, it totally makes sense. I don't see grading something that's a 1 of 1 unless you want to put it into a something for yourself. But I guess what he's saying is, if you think it's going to raise the value, I guess the only time I would think it might raise the value is if you see a 1 of 1 Hulk, and then you see a 1 of 1 Hulk that's a pristine or a PSA 10. To me, I think it would give me a few more butterflies. But again, I've only been in the hobby for, the card hobby part for 4 years. So
Yeah.
I don't know as much as some of these guys do. That's just my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah, the grading thing has really caught on big time lately. It's just become more popular with more options, and some of them weren't aesthetically pleasing. It didn't match the card, it didn't look good, it maybe wasn't for you. And now there's just so many different options. With a 1 of 1, when you're talking a spectrum, it's just to protect it. At that point, if it's slabbed, you're not gonna have to worry about future damage. For shipping and even other things, most of them you're gonna hang on to yourself. But I'd grade a plate in a heartbeat. I just like the presentation inside the slab better. Seems more substantial. But yeah, the grade on it, absolutely, it's just not going to matter. It's you're hoping something that rare is well treated and it's going to be an 8, 9, or 10. But yeah, only a 10 at that point is going to bring maybe a little extra kick, and it's just a bell and whistle.
Yeah. I think there's a very good distinction that you've both touched upon there, is grading or authenticating stroke encapsulating for protection.
Yes.
I think that is the kind of dividing line on it. I saw a 1 of 1 shown on social media very recently that someone had graded, and it was a decent character, and it had come back a 7. Now, I know it's a 1 of 1, but I look at that, and I'm not the owner of it, but I'm looking at it and I'm like, 7.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean? I kind of had that. My instant reaction was, "Oh, sorry to hear about your 7," but I'm not trying.
Right.
I wouldn't say anything. I'm not trying to shit on that person's enjoyment of it. But I kind of looked at it. I was like, "Why would?" Yeah, I don't know. As the owner, would the 7 bother you?
Sort of.
Absolutely.
So I would have definitely gone the route of authenticating it with no grade.
Yeah.
Same principle as a signature, how you can grade the card, not the signature. It's kind of one of those deals where it's probably better to not have it graded and just authenticated at that point.
Yeah.
So how does that process? Because I'm like Wesley. I've been in it for about 4 years now of the card hobby, and I have not got anything personally graded. And I'm with I agree that, one of one, you probably don't necessarily want to get it graded as far as raising the value, but the protection aspect of it, I agree with wanting to get it slabbed or whatever. But how does that work as far as with like, does PSA do something like that where they'll encase it and just say, this is this
Yes.
card?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, you'll get the barcode. It'll get like serial numbered into their system, authentication, stamp and logo, and then obviously the information on the card bio, I call it, is also kind of nice for people who aren't too familiar with the card, or the sets like we are. We see them and bang, we know it's a gem. We know it's a. Sometimes it's nice for people to read Marvel Premiere, and something like that. Just the card bio at the top of one of these slabs, is information, it's data, and people see it and remember it. And, it just helps. It helps for a big time on the protection end and just kind of understanding what you've got.
Yeah.
Right.
Maybe you do want to show off a little bit that you've really taken care of this card. If you, if you're, I think if I'm selling a car and a card, then I've taken
Let's
really
slap a
good care of
car.
it. Maybe, right? Well, it's funny because that's what I do but if you slab a card that you've taken really good care of, you might want to show off the fact that you have this one of one and it's super clean.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I think it's an aesthetic thing. I think it depends on what you're doing and how you're collecting it. Like, let's say you're rainbowing the character and, 3 of the cards are already graded, and then you finally get that one of one. Like, do you want it to match? Okay, then go for it. Have fun. And are you keeping it? Are you keeping it is the biggest factor, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because grading will increase value. It absolutely will, as long as even if it's not an awesome grade, you're going to get some value there because you put money into the card, right, by getting it graded. So there is an inherent return on investment on just doing that. But if you're just having it for yourself and you want it that way, do it. Have fun
Oh,
with it.
yeah,
But
yeah,
if
yeah.
but if you're grading sketches and hoping to sell them and put things in the feed,
Yeah.
like, graded, and what did I see? I saw a sketch posted with in the title bar. It said SSP. Well, no shit. There's only one.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Some people try anything, won't they?
It's a
Now,
Wolverine Ash.
so I think it's very interesting. Weirdly, I don't think of sketches as one of ones. It's become a thing of late to refer to sketches as one of one as well as other things. But I think only very recently did some of the sketch doc actually say that on the back, and not all sets do it, and certainly the older ones are, because by its very nature, it is a one of one. Unless the artist chooses to do a similar kind of pose and stuff, but it's still in individual work. So, but in terms of one of ones that are actually printed cards, I can't remember who said it. Wesley, I think it was you, about if you've looked after it. The thing is, at the moment, all of a sudden we have a proliferation of one of ones with upper decks moved to serial number, the kitchen sink, and it can be straight out of the pack, a 7. It might not be. I mean, we've seen some QA issues on some of these sets.
Oh yeah.
Not all of them. And just by the process it comes in, I mean, comic books, before they even hit the shelves, they're stacked, sorted, loaded into boxes, unpacked, all
Right.
that stuff. Eugene makes an interesting point on this post. He reckoned, a grade below an 8 may impact value negatively. It's not worth the risk and reward. Which I think for a one of one printed card is possibly true. So I think then it becomes, you're either grading it or you're authenticating it, because you can authenticate it, and to Keith's point, it will match the visual aesthetic of the rest of the rainbow.
Absolutely.
By not being graded, because it would still be PSA or Beckett or CGC or what's that?
SGC.
Fucking tuxedos. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. Tuxedos.
Oh dear. So that I get, but for sketches, this is always a big thing that comes up, and there are a lot of people. This always starts a bit of a dumpster fire. The majority of people, and I agree with this, and we talked about it on the Artist Roundtable about 6 months ago with Tony Perno, Andre Orsh, and Jalen Warner, and Michael Munshaw, and it's sketches by their very nature have been handled to fuck.
Right.
the artist has been leaning on them. They probably played cards with them before they started drawing on them. Shuffled the deck. They might have rubbed out. They might have had tape on it.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah, look at the images that you see on their
yeah,
post when they've got a stack of them that's like in a
yeah.
spiral just sitting
Look
on
at
the
the
end of the
edges,
desk. Yeah.
the bending of
Yeah.
the card.
Right.
I mean, just from surface alone, which is one of the things. I mean, I've not had a card graded, but I've seen enough now to know, especially with Beckett with the subgrades. You're looking at what's it? Corners, edges, surface, and what's the other one?
Centering.
Centering. There you go. Thank you, Josh.
Sure.
I'm glad we've got someone who knows what they're talking about on this call.
Yeah, they don't come sleeved or anything to the artists or protected. They just come
No.
raw in a
Right.
box.
Yeah, they're in a
Yeah,
box. 50
exactly.
count box. Yeah.
Like COMC, like a batch from COMC, and just stacked
That's
like
right.
that. And
That's right.
yeah, so you're right. They get handled quite a bit.
So from that point of view, I did buy one sketch once that was graded, and I busted it out pretty quick because I was like, actually, it doesn't. And to that point, it didn't match the rest of my collection, so it was the opposite. Because
Yeah.
all my sketches are stored. Well, they were in binders at that point. Now they're top loader and penny sleeve. But
Was it difficult to unslab? Was
no,
it
just
no?
clip off the top coat. Basically, and I did this with a PSA the other week for a PMG, because all the rest of the PMG, the MCU PMGs I've got, we're going to go into one touches. And this one is the Black Panther one I told you about that I got for a stupidly cheap deal. And I was like, and the
Nice.
reason, and interestingly, the reason that guy had chosen to sell it for, and put it up there for something, is because he's clearly, maybe from the sports card background, saw the grade and said, based on my experience, that's a 7 or an 8. I'm just going to put up 50, 60 bucks. Do you see what I mean? So there's that
Right.
perception of what the grade is going to get you. Because you get an X multiplier with, especially with PSA stuff, where the difference between an 8 and a 9 and a 10, you can see it in the sold prices, and you can see it in the asking prices, and obviously, the set, the character, the limited nature of that card will all feed into it as well. But the grade, it's the first thing people see. Absolutely, the first thing people see.
So when I was collecting comics, I did a bunch of sketch covers at cons and wanted to get them protected. And CBCS had started a deal that instead of getting it graded, it was the art.
Cool. That's cool.
Authenticated the artists and whoever. So like this one, I got an artist to do the front, and then I got on the back the inker, then all the people that worked on the book to sign it. And a lot of people in the comic book club were like, "What? Why didn't you get that graded?" And really, I got it for protection of the art. And also, the artist told me when he was working on the piece that there is like a tiny, tiny pinhole in the cover, because this is like a cardstock cover, but like a tiny, like little pinhole or something that I didn't even see. So it would have probably come back a 6 or something, And so, but there's always been kind of people like, they see something nice, but doesn't have a grade on it in the comic book world. And so they sort of pass it over if it doesn't have a 1 of 1 or what have you. And they see, oh, well, why didn't you have that graded? And then I don't know if they would dismiss it or not want to buy it because it doesn't have a grade on it, even though it's protected. I mean, everybody dealing with humans, so everybody's different and has
the way they logo it at the corner there, I think, is significant. If you've had some experience with sketch cards or sketch covers and stuff like that, and you see that art, the way that thing presents slabbed like that with that logo on the top corner, it looks nice.
It does look nice.
I agree.
I like the word art on there as well. It kind of it holds a certain prestige to it by using
absolutely
that, in that little character box. I've never seen that. That's really interesting.
Yeah, I've got several of them. I ended up selling a few, but I didn't make a whole lot of money. I think I got either what I originally paid, for it.
Especially on the comic end.
Yeah, they didn't really make a big difference. And I've gotten stuff signed to just regular comics, and it just depends on who's signing it. I think that's one of the next topics that he talks about is signatures.
Yeah,
but
we'll go on to that. Yeah,
it just depends. But yeah, as far as like getting sketch cards graded, do they have, because Beckett owns CBCS now, so I don't know if they've got
there is a comparable. I don't know who, don't quote me because I don't know who does it, but I have seen a authenticated sketch slab with no grade, just like what you showed me. It's
PSA
for okay. Yeah, it was real fast and I was going through a big collection, but I thought it was awesome because it protected the card, it looked sharp. And yeah, it had that logo up there that said like it either said custom art or you know, almost like what you have, and I liked it a lot.
And the other thing too, I was just thinking about, and I'm not sure exactly how it applies, but with this hobby, there's so much creativity and talent. Like part of what you're doing is curating your your PC to hopefully, some people want to keep their PC forever and maybe get rid of it to their kids, or maybe use it for retirement or whatever. But if you've got something like that and a little creative, and you might grade a few things and they grade higher, it might be just puts in a little bit more exclusivity, I guess. Is
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I think when
carry on, Keith.
Thinking about it as like if you're an art collector and you're collecting these sketch covers and stuff like that, that might be a scenario where I would grade some sketches if that's something that I was into. When the banners matched on the CGC ones, that would be the only reason I think I'd be down with that, but maybe not now.
Yeah.
But I could, again, that's aesthetic, like I said before. I think it would go nice.
But when you use the expression grading, are you actually talking about getting the grade, or are you talking about authenticating and encapsulating?
Yeah, authenticate, encapsulate, and I'm just looking for it to match up.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And I think, and here's a question, because I don't know the answer, because I've only ever bought stuff that's been already graded by someone else. Do you pay more for the grading than you do for authentication straight encapsulation? Yes. You do.
Yes, sir.
So that even, I mean, for me, this is my personal viewpoint, but I know a lot of people do share. It doesn't make sense for me to actually pay for the grading aspect of encapsulating a sketch card. Yeah, just doesn't make sense. But some people like to do it, and fair play to them. It's your money at the end of the day. And
maybe even like part of the art, like you said, is the the fact that it's been handled a little bit or something, and it might come back might be misinterpreted.
Yeah. Yes, that's something I was just going to say is the style of art. We've come to love some of these sketch artists' respective styles, and if it's a comic cover, especially, sometimes the person who's grading it doesn't have that connection with the artist, and it might not be their style. That's probably, again, like you said, Jason, we're human, right? So it's, people are going to look at it differently, and this grader might give it a lower grade based on it not being their style.
So the element of subjectivity as to what the art looks like could affect the
if we're talking about officially licensed repetitive stock, it's almost like there's a checks and balances where if you dip outside the norm too far, well, then you have a chance of being called out. Like, why are you lower grading cards that deserve, and that can be kind of like checked on when it comes to something like this. Yeah, if it's a style that just doesn't meet their eye. Now, I would try to look at all those objectively. I'd try to look at the styles and say, okay, whether this is not for me, it's how quality is the sketch. But then again, you're kind of getting in some muddy water as far as where to exactly put it.
If they use oils, are they going to get nicked for surface because the surface isn't flat?
That's a very good point.
I have a sketch card where the artist has done 3 cutouts, like claw marks in the card.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'd be mad to grade that.
It'd be a -6.
Well, yeah, exactly. Has anyone managed to get a negative number on a graded card?
I have seen 2s and stuff from like old school cracker box. Yeah, because people will still get them graded, but they're
yeah
in the cracker box with caramel stained on half of it. And
Yeah. Yeah. But I imagine for some of the older cards, then the grading is it's kind of, you know, it's relative to the cards of that type. You know,
yeah,
if you're going to grade a
good
50s card, it's
good
going to be beaten up.
example is like this. Oh, we got the lights going, but it's
What you got, your PSA Joe
the
Jusko
90.
autograph, is that?
Yeah, the Jusco 92.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to figure out how to not blind it. And so, you know, 92 Battle Specters, it's signed by Jusco, but it's just authenticated on the, so it's PSA DNA authentication
Yes.
for the signature. And then it's the cards graded to a 7. So, you know, that's kind of like that's the way to, if you go ahead and grade the sketch too, now you're going to pay an additional fee,
Mm.
or I'm sorry, grade the signature, you know, and then it's going to go up from there.
Wow. Okay. Plates. Now, plates are kind of on the same spectrum for me in that by the virtue of the fact that they've been through a process, you know, they were used, they were on a roller, they had ink on them, you know, they've been over hundreds of sheets of paper, card, whatever. So by the time you get them finished, they're cut out, they file the edges down, make sure that we've got the sticker on the back, into the packs they go, unless recently they've started to put them in these little booklet thingies. Case in point, the only sketch I've ever pulled from a box was from that No Way Home box that I broke the other day. And it had significant ink stains on the front and the back of the plate. And so, not that I'd ever grade that because it's not a plate I'm going to keep. I'm going to trade it or sell it eventually. But I wouldn't grade that for the same reason, because it's been handled, albeit by a machine rather than a human artist. You know, it's been part of a process. And now I love that. I love the story that tells me about
Yeah.
the grittier the better as far as I'm concerned with a plate. But we had an interesting back and forth in the chat the other day, Wesley, when I showed you a plate I had. I think it was a CGC graded plate. And I said I was going to bust it out of there, and you were a bit like, what?
I mean, it even matches the blue with the blue. It broke my heart a little bit.
Yeah, but it doesn't. Well, it doesn't match the rest of my collection. That's the thing, you know. So it's not as if I can get the rest. And this ties into my personal kind of collection, you know, curation. It doesn't match the rest of them, which are all raw. And even if I wanted to get those graded now, I couldn't get the same blue label. I'd get the black one where they spell guarantee incorrectly. Because guarantee is TEE on the end, isn't it? It befuddles me. Maybe it's an American spelling of the word, or maybe it's a different meaning of the word. I don't know, but it always befuddles me, that does. Because I look at it and the first thing I think is, there's a spelling error at the top of the card. Anyway, but no, it's a blue label, but it's a plate. So for me, I don't want it in that slab. You know, so I'm busting it out. Now, you're about to show me something funky, aren't you, Wesley? What did you get?
No,
I was
looking. I had a CGC or a CGC
one of the new ones
behind me. Yeah, and it does spell it with the Y.
Yeah.
So
is that a thing in America? Is that like tomato?
No. I don't know what's going on there.
I mean, I'm sure Dr. Google could answer it for me, and I'm sure my command of the Queen's English is probably in error, because you would think a major company wouldn't make such a grievous
would have checked
mistake. But then that was before they decided to go to a different label.
Hold on a second. Let's see if I can.
So plates. I mean, again, if you want to, go for it. But again, I wouldn't personally pay to grade it. You know, encapsulate, authenticate it, and I think some of these, a lot of the comments kind of go along with it. FBooth has actually replied to someone and said, if you had a plate, what if you got them, but they were in different slabs? For example, what if one was in a PSA, one was in a Beckett, one was in a CGC? Because you got 4 plates to collect. That would be a bit.
That's a pain in the ass.
Well, yeah. But I've seen that happen with people's cards where someone was working on a rainbow and CGC changed their labels, and half of their rainbows in one type of slab and half of them's in another. And
Mhm.
he was
Yeah.
it's Matt Coombs, I believe.
Yeah.
He was
The
outraged.
one of the things to keep in mind is if you just authenticate it, the turn time goes way down.
Oh,
Way
really?
down. Yeah.
Wow.
And
Okay.
obviously like most other things, batch deals are big with PSA and
Yeah.
CGC and stuff. So they even run like promotional stuff where certain months, if you just send in a batch of 20 plus, you can
Mm,
get the price per unit down quite a bit. And if it's just authenticating, you find a bunch of stuff that falls into that realm and you can hit the 15,
mm.
20 card mark. It's pretty decent per clip. And but yeah, to try to do them in less than 10,
Yeah.
Yeah, you get killed.
Yeah.
I was
You're,
curious if you could do that, if it would be less
Oh yeah.
time. I've done
Yeah.
most of my stuff right through ComC, so they're slowly giving out more
yeah.
stuff to be able to do, but not authentication yet.
Yeah. I tell you, it's worth actually mentioning that for someone who I've never submitted anything for graded, and in the UK, I don't think there's many options for me. But although I have a feeling PSA do have a possibly an office here, and I think CGC
They
have people who
should.
handle it. Yeah, I think they have people who handle it, like dealers who handle it on their behalf. There's like an approved channel, but I've just never gone into it. But you can now, by ComC, grade through PSA and CGC directly without having to, receive the card in hand. So I think that's worth flagging for anyone who's not aware that you can do that. And some of those volume deals I've seen emails promoting those now. But Wesley, did you mention authentication wasn't currently
Yeah,
offered on that? Or is it just grading?
it's just grading CGC, PSA, and PSA, and DNA, so they like to check the signatures.
Yeah.
Um, that's what I've used so far.
Okay.
It
All right.
it does CGC's still faster because and less expensive, but I think the one through PSA took me like 5 4 months. It took a little while. It's probably people are
And
probably,
they,
just because it's new, people probably just doing it a
Well,
lot more
they've
right
only
now.
recently added it, haven't they?
Oh yeah.
CGC have been on there for what, a year now?
Yep.
I think so.
My last batch was 10 months.
What,
wow.
PSA?
Yeah. My last batch of 20, almost right around 30 cards or so
Okay. Wow.
was about 10 months. And I'm super patient with that stuff, but I had to keep checking in. Bianchi's autograph is one of the things that hung it up because they couldn't turn the card around and see the example of his signature right on the other side of the card. So it was a mystery for them for some reason to figure out that signature. So, yeah, that held it up a few extra months, but
This was through ComC.
this was PSA. So
But
yeah,
did you
you
go
just
direct
sent-
to PSA or through ComC?
direct through PSA.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Because they have an account, like you can get a membership with them and stuff, and that's when you get those bundled deals and also emails for like discount months where they're doing a lot of the discounts are on the base stuff. So like if you're just going to authenticate, but when you get into fancy, like grading the sig, doing all this other jazz, it usually doesn't fall into the good bracket deals with like bulk because they consider a premium slab different than a base or a stock slab. So there's additional fees there. So
Well, okay. That's good. That's good to know. Let's move on to the second point, because I think this is the one that caught a lot of people's attention. Number 2, please do not, and he's talking about one of ones here, but I think there's a lot of segue into very low limited numbering. So we'll assume it means both. Please do not have them signed, remarked, etc. In my opinion, so this is FBooth's opinion, it is defacing the card. The signing lowers the resale value of the card. It's one thing if the card will be in your forever collection. It's another when you need to raise funds for family emergencies or a grail purchase, etc. Oh, discuss, because this one was a hot patootie.
So I think the issue is if it's a serial numbered card. Okay.
Yep.
And we've seen a lot of it recently. I attended an event where people brought cards to and had Simone sign them and things like that.
Yep.
And they're numbered cards and they're now out of circulation and no one can ever get them. And the problem with that is that, one, if you ever plan to sell it, you're a jerk. Two, if someone's putting together, like we know guys that are like looking for number 75 and he wants number 75 of every card, you've now ruined his chances of ever completing that. And that's kind of a bratty thing to say, that like, why should I care about what someone else is doing? But it is pretty crappy for the hobby that you've just done that to somebody.
Yeah.
It does matter. You know, there is hobby etiquette. And I think that's the biggest thing, is it's a hobby etiquette thing that you don't do that. Now, if you're going to do that and you're going to keep those Dan Dos Santoses and you're going to keep those Simones and all that stuff, awesome. Enjoy it. I love it. I've seen people do cool stuff with oranges and had them sign orange Sharpie. Awesome. They look freaking great. But when I see them on the groups for sale for $400 and it's a base card that's been ruined, you're not getting it from me. I'm fuming and I need to walk away.
Right.
Interesting that you mentioned base card there, because I think for me, I've got, if it's numbered out of let's just say 999, I don't give a flying monkeys if you get it signed. I don't give a flying monkeys if you have a drawing pin put in it and you put it on your wall along with all your family photos and things like that. I think for me, so I'm going to give my take on this, and I think I've said this before. If a card, and I'm going to use 10 as the marker here, but for some people it might be 25, for some people it might be 50. I think that's probably stretching it a bit because it is a fairly niche hobby still. If your card is 10 or less, my opinion is that you own it now, but you're not going to be its forever owner, because spoilers, we all die. So that card will at some point leave your possession. Now, whether that's in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, whether it's because you die and it's part of your estate, or whether it's because you change your mind. You know, I had cards 5 years ago. I was like, this is never going to leave me from my cold, dead hands, Charlton Heston holding up a rifle. But I've since parted with it because my tastes have changed, my collection has changed, or I needed to sort out some emergency dental work and I needed the cash. You know, things, you know, stuff,
Right.
Life happens around these cards. And I think that's the way to think about it. You're the custodian of that card. So if it's a 1-on-1 red spectrum, I've owned 2 in my life. They're now owned by other people. And I think since then, at least one of those has changed hands one more time, maybe more so. So I don't know where those 1-of-1s are, but those 1-of-1s, it doesn't change its status as a 1-of-1, but the person who owns it has. So each person is a custodian of it on its journey through the world. You know, eventually someone might have an unfortunate event like a house fire and that 1-of-1 ceases to exist, possibly along with the owner. But what I'm saying is that
Dark.
generally speaking, a card won't have a heart attack at 50 on a treadmill. Okay, you might. And I'm not saying any of you guys, by the way. I should stress at this point. But and I think your responsibility to that card's integrity goes beyond, possibly outweighs the needs of the few or the one, to paraphrase with Star Trek 2, because any opportunity to do that. Anyway, that's my view on it. I think if you have a 1-of-1, but in particular, and you choose to have it signed, go nuts. Absolutely, go for it. If you currently own, and I'm going to say currently, if you currently own that card, it is your property. You can do what you want with it. But to expect others to completely buy into it, I think, is probably a little bit unrealistic.
Right.
I think. But anyway, I don't know. That's just my view. What say you?
Yeah, no signature on something like a red spectrum. The art, it gets to the art at that point where I want that example of the card as clean, as well protected as possible. I think I've had 3 red spectrums. I wish I still had all of them. But yeah, I'd slab it. I could never get it signed. Right around, it really does sound like that mark, like right around 10. I think those achievement cards are a blast to get signed, the rainbow achievements and other stuff, but for yourself. Yeah, a 1-of-1 is a red spectrum is no matter how they sign it, it's going to cover up a significant amount of the card. And if you love the artist and you're going to keep it forever, but like you just said, you know, we do have a responsibility to the hobby. We do have, you know, for some of these super rare cards. And yeah, it's kind of important that, you know, they stay, to me at least, that they stay as clean as possible and, you know, undisturbed as far as the image.
And there's other cards that aren't numbered, but we know simply because they were so tough to get that there's probably fewer than 10 out there. You know, people have been tracking this shit and know how difficult it was to get. And the example I'm going to use is, funnily enough, both of them rainbow web foils, rainbow foils, masterpieces tier 4, specifically 2016 or 2018. You know, that Spider-Man, for example.
That's my fault.
There's going to be less than, well, certainly less than 20, possibly less than 10 out there.
Yeah.
And ditto for rainbow web foils from Fleer Ultra Spider-Man.
Mhm.
So while it's not numbered, there are so few of them out there because it was so difficult to actually obtain one. You know, all it takes, I mean, they might create 20 of them, but they'll never see the light of day. I'd be surprised if they printed more than 10 because they'll have done the math. And, you know, as soon as someone transfers off one of the web foils, you're down to 9 that could possibly ever made. As soon as someone transfers off some of the silver web foils.
Well, unless someone does a repair job, or what do they call it, a replacement, and we find out that they've been sitting on them.
Well, yeah, and if that happens, then I think that's going to be a whole different conversation to be had. We've not seen it happen. I'm pretty sure. Listen, I don't know, but I'd be very surprised if, because at some point those achievements do go away on EPAC. I had it with, albeit this isn't as rare a card. It was with an annual 2016 one where you had to get, I think you had to get all the logo patches, and then you could get a Defenders logo patch. So, you know, not a high value card or anything like that. Fair few of them on ComC, so it wasn't a low normative thing. But I managed to get all the cards I needed, and the achievement had just gone because they only keep it live for a certain amount of time. And I reached out to, you know, remember when James Hughes was still manning the phones at Upper Deck customer support? And I think he's probably still there, but he's completely gone from social media because I think he was getting so much crap from people. And maybe he has left Upper Deck, I don't know. But he very kindly said, okay, they're not available because they're just not. And I took that to mean that even if we had some left, we've destroyed them because it's past whatever the time is. So Upper Deck actually, as a customer service thing, bought one from ComC and sent it to me.
Wow.
You know, which was a really nice gesture to do. Because I was like, I've just grinded and traded to get the cards I need for this. And, you know, you don't have a date on there by which I need to do this by. And yet the achievement is no longer available on EPAC. I thought that was a bit weird. Anyway, I think it's very unlikely you could still, even if you had the cards, get the achievement for one of the tier 4 masterpieces from 16 or 18.
Yeah,
so,
yeah, you know, it's shut down.
So there's only so many of those out there, but equally, I know that people have been quite happily signing plates recently from Masterpieces 2022, and I'm kind of conflicted on that because a plate is people react to plates and sketches and 1/1s or 1/5s or 1/10s differently.
Yeah.
And it is that human reaction, I think, that's interesting. But if you're so in love with a set and so enjoying the experience and the community and camaraderie of it that you break a plate and you've chosen to get the artist to sign it, who cares?
Yeah.
I think the back is nice to get signed.
Yeah.
It's not a bad idea. Because I like it. The plate for me, the fun is that it's part of the production process. And like when you mentioned one that's got like a little runoff of the color that's spilt, you know, or I've seen a few that have the line, you know, across and I love that. So, you know, it's because you visualize the production process and it getting stamped down and doing its thing. And
it's part of the DNA, like PSA used with the,
absolutely.
You know, it's that same thing. Yeah.
And if you have to get it signed, I mean, there's a bunch of real estate on the back that's not going to hurt anything.
I agree.
The slab is transparent. You can flip it through. So, hey, I met the guy. This is where I met him. And then on the turn, if the collection ever does move hands, then it still presents for it plays ball for just about everybody.
Yeah. So the front is still as nature intended, for want of a better word. Yeah, that's a nice way of looking at it. I want to pause and say that while it sounds like I'm taking a shit on the doorstep of anyone who had the front of their Masterpieces 22 plate signed, I'm not. I'm sure other people probably would. I'm not. I'm just saying. I just personally, I just find it odd that folks chose to do that. But go, girl.
Still your card. You do what you want with
Yeah,
it.
exactly. So we're back
Right.
to it's your card. Poke it up your bum if you want to. I will have that on the back of the new podcast brand T-shirts, by the way. We have quotes. There's an idea. So
That's
logo on
great.
the front, on the
Yeah.
back we have quotes.
Yeah.
So we could have enjoy collecting. We could have it's your card. You can do what you want with it. You can poke it up your bum if you want, although that's quite a lot of text. We might want to spread that across 2 sleeves. Let's see if we can come up with some others.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
I like it.
Pop one.
Pop.
Yeah.
It's the none higher. I
None
just find
higher.
that whole
It's so stupid.
kind of competitiveness. It's like, but when you see it,
Pop
and,
one,
and
none
there are
higher.
some higher, and it's
I
like
hate it.
pop 12, 15 higher. What? I saw that once. I saw that once on eBay. Pop 12, 15 higher. Like,
I was actually online doing a little research on the one of ones and sketch cards and like ones that have been graded, and I didn't see any that sold in the last there was 5 pages, but it pulled me over to somebody had put a one of one, but it was the Omega, right? So 25 of 25. Is that really a one of one? I mean, I
Yeah.
guess that's a whole nother topic, but
It's not wrong. It's the only one numbered to that number. But
yeah, that's
whew,
there is that. I mean, listen, this is like I said. I think it's important to say that the post on Facebook went to some levels where some people were saying it's sacrilege or it's silly. Went on to say, I own the card, so I should be able to collect how I want without having to hear about it. And you are true. But someone else has come back and said, look, I'm a character collector, and while I can say I never have plans of selling, that ultimately is not true. There is always a price. Or the collection may be passed down one day, and there will always be another collector to inherit the collection or the card. So I think the point this person was saying is the hobby is bigger than any individual collector, and I think that's what FBooth's post is trying to highlight. So it's an interesting perspective.
well, and I like the word that you mentioned earlier, like a custodian of the card. I'd never heard that before, and I think that actually holds some pretty good weight, especially in a hobby like this. It's a little, I mean, I don't want to say smaller, but you got some camaraderie, and you want to make sure you take care of and keep the hobby great, I guess.
yeah, that's going on the back of the shirt. Card custodian.
Yeah. That's a great idea.
Card custodian. Yeah, that's a nice idea. Here's a thought. And it's the thought has completely left my head. While you were talking, I read something and it popped into my brain. Those red spectrums. Here we go. Thank you. I've managed to claw it back from I'll have to edit out that pause because that was embarrassing. I'm only 50, but I'm struggling away like a 75-year-old. When those red spectrums, I will always have had the joy of owning them. Do you see what I mean? I don't currently own any red spectrums. I don't think I own, outside of sketches or plates, I don't think I currently own any one of ones in that sense. Cards that are numbered one of one. But I've owned 2 of them from Simone Bianchi's Masterpieces 2018 set. And I moved them because I needed to. Do I wish I hadn't? Of course. But did I need the money? Of course. It was COVID year. You know, I think
Yeah.
everyone did.
Which characters?
Falcon and Wonder Man. And the Wonder
Okay.
Man was sold as part of the rainbow. So the whole rainbow went to another collector, and it's
Nice.
still with him. And he is the current custodian of that
Yeah.
one of
That's
one
cool.
and that rainbow. He's got there's 2 plates in there as well. And they're stunning in hand, you know, and I've had the joy of physically owning one. It sounds really silly, you know, it's you know, there is a phrase, it's just cardboard, but that's the thing, that's also not true. It's one of these things, two things can be true at the same time. It is just cardboard, but it also means a shit ton to the people who own it and collect it,
Oh, absolutely.
you know.
It's
So
the Excalibur of a
exactly, yeah.
collector's quest. It's the top of the mountain there.
So it's fascinating. It's where are we? Sorry, I'm trying to scroll down because there was one particular comment thread. Here we go. Whoa! Right, yeah, 21 replies. Yeah, this is the one. So I'm going to play devil's advocate here because why not? It's fun. I think autograph printing plates look aesthetically pleasing. For the same reason, a prelim art card looks good with an autograph. It's a tag on an unfinished piece of something difficult. It simply looks cool. That's enough reason to get it done, given the opportunity. I think you guys are coming from a good place, but you're coming from a place of dozens of plates. Most people are incredibly lucky to get one plate. It's special to them. So slapping that auto on it cements that. Don't feel bad about getting that metal signed. Fair enough. But then the replies come, but the auto on a printing plate is an alteration of a one of one. It may look cool to you or another collector, but it's still an alteration. So yeah, and it went on and it got a bit feisty. Kind of, you know, beyond the kind of just a regular conversation. But yeah, it's interesting. I can see both points of view, but I genuinely I just can't get on board with signing a plate on the front myself. You know,
No.
even if you've just got the one.
I think the point was brought up earlier that there's a lot of real estate on the back.
Yeah, exactly.
Because sometimes those plates, I mean, I've got some that crystal clear, you can see the image. Others, the yellow ones are like the black, a little faded, and signing it's just, I mean, to me would look kind of just a jumbled mess, perhaps. But
yeah,
right.
But the whole signature thing, I'm, you know, I think they're fun to get. I think, you know, I don't know. I think I agree. I wouldn't do a red spectrum signature at all. But they're fun to get. But it's even when with comics, there's just this line of people that really like to go after signatures, get signatures, and then there's the purists that I was taken down a couple notches several years ago. I went to a swap meet at a place where people were, you know, trading comics around, and there was some really nice older comics, and some were graded, some weren't. And I brought some of mine to maybe trade or sell that I had gotten signed, and they looked at them and like, oh yeah, no, I don't like signed books. Like it was just, you know, stuff I had done was kind of. So it's just for me, signatures. I think it's just whatever you're into and want to do, but not everybody's going to want to maybe buy those from you,
right? And think about you. That's 11 by what, 8.5? Or you know, the real estate you're dealing with there is like it, and those guys are still that way. They don't want a speck of that cover. Some of the purists, they don't want anything altered,
right?
And so, yeah, I've run into that too. I purchased a large inventory of signed Amazing Spider-Man stuff. And is it Greg Land? Greg, I thought it was Greg Land, but
he's an artist.
He is an artist. Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought these were home runs because the art was amazing on the cover, and the slab was beautiful. It presented well at auction. It wasn't, the return wasn't really there. It was somebody wanted to have it to keep it, and it was a nice little bell and whistle having that signature, but it didn't increase the value really any.
Well, that's the
I-
point. I think it's intent also. What is
Yeah.
your intention in getting it signed? Are you intending to make more money off that signature, or are you intending to keep it for yourself?
Hmm.
And that's where I think some people got spicy too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think the main thing where people got spicy is that they felt they were being told what they should do. And
Right.
listen, if you want to, that's fine. But I don't think anyone was. I think it was just like good advice at the end of the day, trying to advise people. FBooth did a wonderful breakdown here. I consider owning these rare cards to be an honor and a large responsibility not only to my eventual heirs, but also to other collectors and the hobby as a whole. In my opinion, collectors should respect the hobby and not do anything to the cards that could ruin the collectability for others. So that talks to my custodian point from earlier. I think probably since Spider-Man Metal that some Marvel collectors, new and seasoned, have lost their way either through naivety, greed, or stupidity. A recent example: number 1, pull rare card. Number 2, show off rare card. Number 3, ask group, should I grade? Number 4, autograph a rare card. Number 5, list on eBay for 5 times character tier going rate. This is not how any of this works. I understand the stance that it's my card, I will collect the way I want, but these cards are generally in collections for a relatively short amount of time. In the rare case that these cards stay in a collection until death, these treasured cards are not lining the coffin, unless you're really stupid. These cards will be re-released to the collecting public through the estate. Wouldn't your beneficiaries want the cards to be treated in a manner that maximizes the return? Again, defacing a very rare card will hurt value. So I thought it was interesting that he went through I should say what I've just read was from FBooth. It's not something I wrote, but I thought it was interesting that he broke that down. It does make a lot of sense. It does
Yeah.
make a lot of sense.
I can't agree more with him.
Yeah,
So,
the responsibility to the hobby.
Yeah.
We want as many people to have the experience of having
Yeah.
that red spectrum or that one of one. And
Yeah. So if I'd had that red spectrum signed, then the person who owns it now might be like, "Oh, I love this card, but I wish it wasn't signed." I don't know. They
Yeah.
might maybe they've chosen to have it signed themselves. Fine, they're the owner of it. Like I say, they can do what they want. I'm
There's
gonna
also
go
no
on to-
going back.
No, there isn't. That's the
Right.
thing.
If it's
not
slab,
like
you can free
Yeah.
it, and you might damage it, but if it's signed, there's no going back.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
there.
Once it's signed, it's there. It's there. Absolutely. Unless it's not like a border razor where you can do. Now, the third example is an interesting one. This goes slightly off on a different tangent. Do not break up sketch card puzzles to sell them individually. I unfortunately have seen a few examples of this recently on eBay. The Rittenhouse sets, especially Greatest Heroes, would insert all panels of a sketch card puzzle in one box. Do not sell Rittenhouse puzzles panel by panel. Those who have been in the hobby prior to 2015 know this. In contrast, older Upper Deck sets like MM07 and 08 broke up the puzzles among thousands of boxes. These UD puzzles, when completed, demand huge premium when sold due to the incredible difficulty to complete them. Unless someone is very close to a 6 or 9 card puzzle completion, the premium for the individual panels may not be there. I think the floor is littered with collectors who tried to complete the infamous René de Liz puzzles. I don't actually fully understand his reference there. I remember hearing about it on the grapevine. Has any of you got sketch puzzles? Like cards?
I do.
Yeah?
Mhm.
Did you get them all in one?
Yes. Where the hell is it?
He's gone off to look for it. You might not have had this joy, Wesley, especially because you're fairly new to things. Do you do many sketches, Wesley?
No, I've got 5, 7, something like that. Not very many.
Oh, okay. I've got another 20 you can have if you want. We'll discuss payment plan.
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
Thinking about
Yeah.
It keeps holding up. What's that? X-Men Metal Universe?
It's Dre.
Oh, I thought I was gonna ask if it was Dre. That's nice.
that's
Jim Lee homage. But yeah, to what he's saying, I've seen it also, and I kind of blame one. There is one party I blame right now for some of that too, and that's ComC. Some people have
Oh.
sent these in, and when they've been scanned separately, and they are for sale separately. And that's that's what happens when they're not coming from EPAC. If it's like an older Rittenhouse, there's one up there right now that I've seen. And the other thing is also, Someone, yeah, I mean, Dre's been looking for the other half of one of his sketches for the longest time. I think it's a Hulk or an Omega Red that we've seen the top half of,
That's
but the
right.
bottom half is missing. It just sucks. That's a shame.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
that
tricky.
comment was kind of crazy to me about, I mean, again, I haven't been in it that long, but just the fact that people will, or that these puzzle cards are getting broken up now, is crazy. And then I can't imagine the hunt that people maybe have been on for years with this stuff. But it seems like upper little bit as far as like a lot of the puzzles now are part of achievements, so
Yeah.
you can get it all.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, some of them. So are puzzle cards a little bit different than like the booklet or the panel sketches, because those are all kind of together. But
they're sealed. Yeah.
The puzzles were like an individual card that you. But okay.
That's right. Yeah. So,
yeah, where the image all connects between the 3 cards and
yeah, and you see them. I mean, some of them go over 6 or 9 cards, and artists regularly do APs with them as well, where they connect them. I mean, I don't collect puzzle sketch. I prefer it to be a single piece. I don't like having a sketch that goes over more than 1 card. That's just my personal aesthetic. Partly because it's a fucker to display. I mean, Keith's got his in a 2-panel. Is that a hardball case, or was it just a standard 2-panel?
I don't think it's a hardball because it's got magnets on it. I think,
But it's got a massive black line down the middle of it. So
right.
obviously, it's not the most. Not that I'm trying to piss on your cornflakes here, Keith.
That's all right.
But I'm sure you'd prefer a case that didn't have such a thick black line down the middle. Just to bring them slightly closer together, perhaps.
Listen, it was quick and easy. I just wanted to get it together.
Protects them. It protects them.
Exactly.
They don't have to stay in there.
And I'll eventually address that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
I think I have one for my. Oh, there's that horrible glare, but.
Oh, see, that's fine. I mean, is one a sketch?
No, it's from the 17 set. Is that and the
Oh, hang on. No, one's from the retro set, the 15 retro, and one's from Comic Images 1989.
Yeah.
That's right. Okay, that's nice. I mean, they're not sketches, and they work as individual pieces to complement each other. What you want is the third piece being the actual comic cut, which I saw pop up and someone got. I can't remember his name now. He's on Instagram.
Yeah.
Now sorry, go.
No, I saw it on Instagram too. I saw the guy. He's yeah. That would be perfect.
I did swear out loud when I saw that. Anyway, Keith, sorry, carry on.
Now, in the older sets with these puzzles and stuff, were they released together, or were they a hunt that you had to piece together?
Not all of them. So what FBooth was saying in his post, in Masterpieces 0708, which I don't know for sure. Someone will correct me if I'm wrong. I have a feeling that might be one of the first sets that did multi-panel.
96.
Sketches. Did 96 do them?
They connected 3 racks. There's a Phoenix and.
Hang on, no. First sketch cards in Marvel were 97.
Oh, sketches.
So yeah. Sorry. So yeah, for sketch cards, I'm pretty sure it was Masterpieces 0708, and they were separate. So for the longest time, there was a Black Cat 2-part sketch that I saw the 2 halves floating around on eBay, and I couldn't quite bring myself to buy them because I still wasn't sure about having 2 parts of a puzzle and how I'd store it and how I'd display it and all this sort of stuff. Weirdly, it ended up getting gifted to me about a decade later from a friend. So,
Wow.
So I do have that. But in some of the Rittenhouse sets, they were separate. So you got a sketch per box, and you did see the separate elements. I think one of them, it might have been Greatest Battles, where each sketch was one of a 2-part puzzle.
Oh, wow.
Because it was the characters like battle, one character and one half, one character. And I can't recall if they were both together in the same box or not.
That'd be a nightmare if it wasn't.
But and he's talking about 6-card sketches and 9-card
he's talking about 6
that
cards
were split up on release.
Yes, exactly. And the thing is, it's not a unique thing to Marvel. I think Matt Fuller came in with a comment because he's deep and when I say deep, I'm talking like
Oh, yeah.
way up to his armpits in Lord of the Rings sketches, and has been for like, well over a decade. I mean, his collection of Lord of the Rings sketches is just phenomenal, as is his sketch collection just generally. But he made a comment somewhere on here, and for the life of me, I can't find it now, where he's talks about still being haunted. Here we go. The number of unfinished Lord of the Rings sketch puzzles I have haunts me daily. Yeah,
Wow.
and tops Indiana Jones was the same as well.
He actually
Where
benefited from that post.
they were separate. Oh yes, he did. Someone hooked him up, but it was a Marvel sketch actually.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. A few days later, someone saw that he'd posted something that was unfinished, and they actually had the other piece. So that's where having a group like that with so many eyes, especially that post. I mean, the engagement that post got was bonkers. I mean, I can have a look at the stats for it actually. So it was definitely I mean, the post reach alone was, bearing in mind the size of the group, was 1,500 people. 283 folks engaged with it in one way or another.
I don't think anybody got muted.
No, it got close. It got close. It got very close, actually. Because there's always someone who can't help themselves. But 149 comments. Caused one person to unfollow. So I've never read this element of a thought, but I'm looking on the post, and you can see like the performance of a post, and it had unfollow one, but I'm not sure if it means unfollow the post or if it means unfollow the group. People do.
Question.
People, this is a hot topic for people, So I'm sure if someone read that and they were like, "Oh, I don't think I agree with the way that this is being dictated or mandated. I think I'll leave the group." Well,
this isn't aligned with my belief system on that.
Yeah, well, unfortunately,
Come on,
but this,
like,
I tell you what I like about it. It was a good conversation. At the end of the day, it was a really good conversation. And, hats off to it. This is why I kind of wanted to bring it to a wider audience via this and get your guys' kind of feedback in. I think one of the beauties about, I mean, this is what our third episode together for most of us. Two, if you don't count Josh not being able to bounce on Friday, is we can, we all have different experiences. So having a wider breadth of voices on the podcast is a good thing, I think. So,
yeah. And one thing I was thinking about too, not to interrupt, but at FBooth, back when it started, these sketches were a lot more prevalent and easier to get. So somebody like me, I think we brought up a good point. You just asked me how many sketches I got. It's not because I don't want them. It's just because they're so expensive. And I would rather start with something else. And when you get boxes, they're not in as many boxes now, right? It used to be in like one box per.
Yep. Just about every box you're getting one.
Yeah.
Maybe how much, and you might know this, Ian, better than me or other people, but how much has the hobby grown where all these new people don't have the reach to get the sketches, and maybe they want to make them a little more special just to, I guess, I hate to say show off a little bit, but have something a little more.
Possibly. I think that the number of people who are sketch collectors has never been massive, if I'm honest with you. I think there are some people who are really deep into it and go after it as their main thing. Yeah. And those people have been around for over a decade, and I don't think they'll ever change. I think there are people who've come onto it more recently who are very focused, who've gone after the Rittenhouse stuff because there's more out there. For me, I can only kind of talk about it for me personally. I've kind of stopped with collecting Black Cat sketches now because I've only got a certain amount of budget, and there are too many like parallels and inserts and other things. She's in too many sets for me to be able to afford both. But also her sketches, there are 10% of the sketches each year for Black Cat as there were 10 years ago, simply because of Marvel approvals, simply because of the breadth of other characters. I think there's possibly been some artists who've maybe shied away more from female characters who could possibly get banned and they won't get paid for creating the sketch card. And as you say, there are fewer of them, sometimes to a case now.
There's definitely a price increase too. Big time.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I mean, that panel cost me $150. That two piece cost me $150. There's no chance No chance I'm getting both of those cards for 150 bucks.
No,
Not even each. Not even each at this point.
no. Well, I think that's tied into the fact that they're rarer hits, and everyone's expectations as to how much they want to be able to recoup from their product buy have gone,
That
which is a whole
especially.
other conversation
That especially.
for another time. But I think the expectation that the contents of the box should be worth equal to or more than what was paid for the box is now the norm in a lot of cases. Which
For
is
the higher end stuff,
yeah,
especially.
especially for the higher end stuff, which is kind of pushed the prices up as well on the secondary market. So, like I said, that's a whole other conversation for another time. Hopefully, I'm going to kind of circle us into lands because I think we've said pretty much all we can say on that, unless anyone else has got anything else up their sleeve they want to bring to the table. No, I'm just getting shakings of heads, and at least one person has just poured some whiskey.
This was a good conversation. I mean, I'm learning a lot about card grading and just the different things of it that I hadn't really.
Well, and me too.
Yeah.
Like,
He's still going, Wesley. He's just got a shit signal.
I was just because I've got a couple base Wolverines that I had McNiven sign just because coming from a little bit of the sports side of it, you look at a sticker signature compared to an on card auto, you think it's cooler. And I was there and we were talking and had him sign a couple of them. I think for me now that I look at it is more so I could remember the experience.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that.
And it's a
yeah
base card too. It's not a number card, and
yeah
I get the side of it of the one-on-ones and the
yeah go for it.
One thing that crossed my mind with the sticker when we talked a while ago about sticker signatures as opposed to on the card,
Yeah,
I think there might be an opportunity if somebody's dying to get a signature on there, you could do the sticker signature route. And a lot of those are made to be able to be taken off.
that's interesting.
I mean,
yeah, that is interesting actually. Yeah, get that done. I mean, the thing is especially with the 90s cards, if you ask Joe Gisco how many Masterpieces 92 cards he's just signed at cons on cards
Oh,
over
God.
the years,
I've seen a lot more
it
of
would
those.
be
Yeah,
in the tens of thousands.
Oh, absolutely.
There are hundreds of thousands of each card out there. And that doesn't it doesn't take away from the opportunity for someone to still own an signed card in that sense. So that happens all the time, and I completely get that. If you go to a con, you're doing it for you. You're doing it because you want the experience of you could have asked him to sign anything. Could have asked him to sign the left tit and got it tattooed on, which I'm sure he's done.
He seems to be like an ambassador of the hobby and
Yeah.
tried to, like, in that sense, it wasn't like he was an autograph. I'm trying to use the right terminology. Go around just signing everything without, he just seemed like he genuinely wanted anybody interested in the art and the hobby to, to having that experience. So,
yeah. So, and his signature, like Simone Bianchi's, is a work of art in and of itself.
Yeah.
In my view. So, but maybe not on a 1-of-1 red spectrum.
No.
Yeah.
Anyway, but if it's your red spectrum, do what you want with it. Except for maybe poking it up your bum. Guys, who should we have at the intro at the top of this episode? What artists have we talked about? Let me think. We've talked Joe Gisco. We've talked Simone Bianchi.
Dre.
We've talked Dre. You know what? Let's put Dre at the top.
Yeah.
Dre, it's cold up there in Canada at the moment. He could use a bit of warm love headed his way from his podcast here. So Andre Orsh at Dre Studios, I believe.
Correct.
On Instagram. Good. Check him out. His link will be in the comments. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please like, share, and subscribe. Now that people are hearing us, guys, do you want to reel off where people can find you on Instagram again so that they know? Wesley, go.
I'm on Instagram at Webbyvision. And Facebook, Wesley Webb.
Good. Let's keep it to Instagram. But of course, you're not on Instagram. Josh, you on Instagram?
I am. I'm at Smith Joshua Kennedy.
Smith Josh. I'm sure you've got another one that I've been tagging.
Yeah,
I think you've got Josh Kennedy, haven't you?
I do have Josh Kennedy as well.
Yeah. Let's go with Josh Kennedy because it's slightly
All
well, unless of course. Here we go. What we got here? I've got Kennedy Comics. Kennedy got Comics is the one I've actually got
Gotcha.
on here. Should we go with that one? Which one do you prefer to use? We
Yeah,
should have
that'll
this
work.
conversation. Yeah, we'll use that one. We'll use that one going forward. Jason, are you on Instagram? We had this conversation.
Yeah, I am, but it's just kind of a personal. I mean, if somebody wants to follow me or friend me, that's fine. But it's JRM894. But I don't. It's just I post pictures of if I'm, at a concert or playing golf or with my niece.
Okay.
Or
cool. All right.
I may resurrect the old Heroes and Hops Instagram account. That's my old podcast.
Oh wow. Okay.
I've thought of resurrecting, not getting into podcasting with that, but just posting some neat pictures of comics, cards, and beer. So but
beer's good.
Don't hops yet. Stay tuned.
I think that's one thing we can all get around. And Keith, we know where you are.
Yeah, on Instagram, XXRonusXX. It's funny. I'm the flip side of you, Jason. That's all hobby stuff, and then Facebook is my family stuff.
Yeah. No, that's cool.
Much as I used to, I kind of just lurk now. So
that's fine. Well, listen, give the guys a follow. You know where I am at Mr. Felicia Hardy. Also at the MCC Pod on pretty much everything that's got channels and branding. Like, subscribe, follow, share, put in the comments if you've got thoughts about any of this stuff. And much love to you all. Who wants to sign us off this week?
I got it. Everyone enjoy collecting.
There we go.